All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome into Bay Area Combat North Bay Face-Off. This is our third or fourth show, somewhere right in there. I don't know, but luckily Steve Barnett is back this week. He could not join us last week, even though we had a pretty good interview last week that you missed with Joe Cropscott. Your guy even, and you weren't here.
I know. It's just sometimes I can make it in.
What, you were busy?
I don't even remember what.
He's a busy man.
He's very busy, man.
Very busy.
Look at this guy's fighting tomorrow. Just came out of weigh-ins. He's trying to rehydrate, and he's here. What's your excuse?
For real. He got you.
I have, outside of my fight career kind of stuff here, I have actually a day job.
That's right. You're an electrician.
Yeah, it's kind of an electrifying type of
How many
career.
fires have you caused over the years as an electrician?
God, none. And I haven't been shocked too many times, you know what I mean? I think that's,
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys, my name is Jim Cooley. I'm the voice of champions, of course, joined by Steve Barnett, the promoter slash matchmaker for Bay Area Combat, along with Deborah Farrellito, also owner.
Yeah.
And we are luckily enough joined by Danasabe Mohammed, who is fighting tomorrow night at Dragon House 31, and he is taking on, and I'm going to try this name, and I'm going to try it one time. Salamane Amadiyar. That's right. For the title. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that title. What is it?
Dragon House lightweight title, 155. I'm fighting that. I've been trying to fight at lightweight for a long time now. A lot of opponents pulling out, so it made it a little bit more difficult, to get fights. I just ended up going up in weight.
You had like 4 or 5 canceled fights over the last couple years.
Yeah, more than that.
Sal Becerra, who actually is a great fighter. I wanted to see that fight. What happened with that?
I have no idea. I guess he got hurt in the last week of the fight. I mean, I don't understand why anybody's training hard the last week of the fight. It doesn't make any sense.
They should be doing interviews with Bay Area Combat.
right?
I mean, nothing against him. I don't know what happened. He's a great fighter. I'm not going to talk crap about him.
Yeah. No, he is a great fighter, and it's too bad that happened. However, I do want to talk about your November fight. It was the last Dragon House. And in a minute, I want to talk about why you only fight Dragon House and Bellator and nowhere else.
I have no idea. Nobody hits me up. So, I mean, if you guys want me to fight, I'm ready to fight anytime. So
you see these guys that are fighting everywhere. I look at your record.
I'm trying to get some fights somewhere else.
Didn't you try to get in a fight where Combate America and they declined?
That lady that pulled out, what was his name?
Shit, I don't even remember.
You gotta look at this guy's name up, whoever it is. He blocked me on Facebook and Instagram. Such a
Carlos Roca?
No, not Carlos Roca. He was for Combate Americas.
David Douglas.
It was like
Richard Rigmadon.
No.
Those are the only cancellations I have on here.
He just him and his camp just declined the fight.
I see.
And then they stopped answering.
Hey, they had identical. I gotta say,
they blocked us on Facebook.
they had identical records.
Right.
Like, we were talking a little shit online about, like, hey, you want to fight a tomato can, go ahead. But if you want a real fight for your guy.
What's the promoter's name?
What
was the lady's name? Because she has this stuff on there. I gotta find this.
While you're looking that up, and we'll get back to that in a second, but I want to talk about your last fight.
Of course.
Because you fought actually a friend of mine, a guy who I've watched kind of grow up as a fighter. Yeah. He holds some big wins. He beat Melvin Washington, Colt Business, at the World Fighting Championships. His name's Jamario Mulder. They call him Mandango.
Yeah. He's a tough ass kid.
He is a tough kid. And you're coming off that win. I believe that was November of last year. Yeah. Dragon House 30.
Beat Abraham Vassallo.
Absolutely.
Which I was surprised about also.
So you beat some tough guys, man. Tell us about the Mandango fight when you fought Mulder. I believe you rear naked choke, right? Second round, something like that. Yeah.
Rear naked choke. So, I just came out just throwing haymakers. I wanted to make it an exciting fight, and he responded the same way. I wanted to test his ground game, so I shot him for a takedown. After I took a shot, boom. I could tell that he was a little out of his comfort zone. So
kickboxer.
I was like, all right, well, this is going to be finished here for sure. He rolls around. He doesn't really know what to do in mount. He turns his back, and then I just, slip my shoulder over and then throw the choke in. So.
And that was a big win for you. You had 2 straight losses, but against monster opponents. Dwight Grant, I believe Terry was your other opponent.
I went the distance with them.
Yeah. And those are like monster fights. But prior to that, man, you had a big win over Martin Sano. And Martin Sano, for those of you at home that don't know, is sort of like Nick Diaz's protege. He moved him into his house a few years back, and he was supposed to be this next big thing. And he is a great fighter. I love Martin, but you fought him and you beat him on Bellator. First round, TKO, I believe.
Yeah, it was like a minute in, maybe that. Not even that, 30 seconds in, something like that.
Do you feel like that was smart keeping that fight on your feet? Because obviously he's a jiu-jitsu guy.
Not there. I mean, he prides himself on being a stand-up guy, but his stand-up was not there at all.
It's hard to listen. Nick and Nate can box. Obviously, Jake can throw hands, but those guys are jiu-jitsu guys. Plain and simple, they're jiu-jitsu guys. So when you come in against a guy like you who's got hands, I mean, obviously his game plan probably should have been to I'm going to get in trouble here. Nick and Nate are my boys, but probably should have been to take you down. Yeah. Did he attempt to take you down? I didn't get to see that fight.
If he would have taken me down, he probably would have got submitted, truthfully. Like, I mean, the majority of my wins are first-round submissions, so I don't understand.
Look how dedicated you are to finding out this guy that pulled out of this Combat Americas fight.
Oh, man. This guy pissed me off so bad. I can't even tell you.
Explain it to me. So you're set to fight this guy, or you wanted to fight this guy?
So I get hit up on Facebook from some random guy. He's like, hey, there's an open spot on Combate Americas. I see that you have similar records with this guy. He's got, he's a good fighter.
Right.
I'll send your information over, and then we'll get this going. I was like, yeah, I already had the blood work done. Everything was ready. Like, I was ready to fight any time. I talked to the lady who's doing the matchmaking, putting it together. She's like, "Oh, this will be great. We just have to see what their side says." And then they come back and they're like, "Oh, he doesn't want a hard fight. They want to make sure their guy has an easy fight for this show and whatnot." And I'm like, all right, that doesn't make any sense. So I started talking a bunch of crap to him on Facebook and Instagram, and then he ends up blocking me. And
you did the Clubber Lang. Like, if he's not going to fight me, I'm going to go get him. I'm going to make him fight me.
I'm going to make him fight me, but it didn't work, so whatever.
I mean, it is. If he didn't want to fight, he didn't want to fight. Like, there was no way you were going to get him to fight.
And he ends up fighting a tough opponent anyways and getting his ass whooped either way. So
we've talked about this on this show before, but back when me and Steve fought, especially like 90s.
Yeah, anybody fought anybody.
Listen, I had Mark Hall called me one day and he was like, "You want to fight tomorrow?" I said, "Yeah." I drove to LA on my own dime. I didn't know who the fuck I was fighting. I got there and it was like he's like, "It could be this guy, or this guy. I'll let you know in an hour." Show started in 3 hours. So I found out 2 hours before who I was fighting. That's how we did it. Now, was it smart? Not really.
But you're there to test your skill.
Absolutely.
People don't do it anymore.
So
they're trying to get famous.
I think it's definitely good to watch video and fight guys, but you should fight anybody. Listen, to be the best in the world, you have to fight everybody in that weight class at some point in your life, or you're not going to be the best in the world, plain and fucking simple.
I honestly feel it's like I'm starting to come across this more and more, even in the amateurs, that people are trying to protect their records. I'm gonna fight anybody.
Well, people want to make money and they want to get famous. It's more of a facade to have followers and to be popular than it is to
famous off of fucking amateur
actually
fights,
be a fighter.
Be the best amateur in the world. Hey, I'm the #1 amateur in the world.
I mean, you see it. Guys are being amateurs for like 10 years.
They got like 100 fights.
30 years old. They got 100 fights. They're black belts. It's like, bruh.
Sandbagging.
What are you doing?
Yeah. Honestly, like on the biggest scale, and I'm going to leave MMA for a minute and go to boxing, but Canelo Alvarez is a guy who I watched with this padded record forever and ever. Oh, he's undefeated. He's beaten everybody. And then he fights Floyd and literally just gets exposed like he'd never fought in his life. You know what I mean?
But
who wants to be that fighter?
The guys that he fought before were still monsters. He wasn't padded like padded.
Right. It wasn't like they weren't cans. They weren't cans. But the point being, like, at the time, he wasn't fighting the Amir Khans. He wasn't fighting anybody like that. You know what I'm saying? You're out here fighting James Terry, Dwight Grant, Martin Sano.
I don't care. I just want to fight.
There you go.
And people, like, they expect you to come from this, like, huge camp. Like, and if you don't come from this camp, then you don't deserve to fight on this show.
Yeah.
Even though the camps that they're coming from are all crushing cans. Like, oh, I got a 6-1. I got a 7-1. I got an 8-0 record. Yeah. But the only guys that you fought are 0-15. And, like, get the
Julio Cesar Chavez. So talk about your camps for a minute. So I believe for a while you were at Marin MMA. Is that where you started?
No, I've always been with Napa Valley MMA 100%.
Because on your Facebook you have Marin MMA.
Well, I mean, I cross-trained there.
Okay.
But I've been 100% with Napa Valley MMA. But I've cross-trained a lot of places. Like, I've cross-trained at NCFA before.
Okay.
I've cross-trained at
NorCal Fighting Alliance, David Terrell.
Yeah, I've cross-trained at Combat Fitness. Just random places.
Good camps.
I just go to train like whenever. For this fight, I didn't cross-train much at all. I really just focused on, being with my coaches, Steve and Chris,
dyeing your hair,
dyeing my hair,
getting all that done.
Just working on technique and getting back to where I was when I was finishing everybody. Which was listening to my coaches and not going everywhere else.
Absolutely. So who are some of the training partners that you like to roll with, train with, spar with at Napa?
In Napa, I train with the guys that I have there, which is Raymond Lopez, Diego Lopez, Mark Vargas, Jerry Bolander, Chris.
Jerry Bolander. Who the fuck is Jerry Bolander? That's good,
Right,
man.
yeah.
So you like it there, and then when you do cross train, let's say you go to NorCal Fight Alliance, you go over to Dave Terrell's camp. Who are some of the guys that you're training with over there?
I haven't been over there in years, but when did go over there, yeah, I cross trained. I was like Jordan Williams, Gabriel Pacheco. They're all great guys. Like all of them are amazing guys. You know.
Absolutely. So there's a difference between what I would call hood jumpers, like guys that go from one camp to another camp to another camp, and mostly it's because they're avoiding fights and they don't want to train that hard. They want to go somewhere else. You, on the other hand, are seeing, look, I can fill holes here, or I can maybe go over here and see something that I didn't get to see here, get a different look, and that's definitely the way to do it. That's why you got a title fight tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm. You know, I see a lot of guys that have temper tantrums and throw fucking shit fits because they're not getting their way, stomping their feet, kind of shit. Egos getting away, and they go from camp to camp to camp because it's like, you know, having a little childish temper tantrums and shit. I'm like, you know, I think the best success out of the Napa Valley MMA gym is that everybody works together as a team. Right. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Which we realize, as you know, I'm Napa Valley MMA right now, not Bay Area Combat. So, so. As a coaching and stuff like that, we see where we can add to it, not take away.
Right.
Yeah. You got to think of a fighter as like a character in a video game, you know, and the coaches are the players. You
got to level them up.
Yeah, and they understand. They see things on the outside that we don't see, so they can constantly tweak and adjust what we need. You don't need to get beat up every single day to advance in the sport. What you need is somebody who understands who you are and what you can do and where you can go, you know?
Absolutely. That's a great way to look at it. You know, I never have heard that analogy before. I've been in the sport for 20-something years. That's a great analogy. You take the video game character, you level him up, but you level him up to his strengths and then maybe help with his weaknesses when you can. I like that attitude. How did weigh-ins go today? You went there. Oh, did he give you the look? Did he look like he wanted to go? I mean, is there any beef between you guys?
I'm always cordial with other fighters when I get to weigh-ins. I mean, it doesn't work to make like a big scene, especially when you're at like a regional show. Nobody's watching the weigh-ins at a regional show. You don't need to make a bunch of noise and puff your chest out. Like, that's just ignorance. But you fight and you learn, and I feel like I've been around the block to understand that. And these guys that haven't, they puff their chest out and try to act tough and think that they're going to get followers from making a scene.
Would you say out of this can be what, your 22nd fight? Do you think that you're an expert now?
This is your 9th pro fight, I want to clarify, right? Yeah, 9th pro fight, 22nd overall, okay.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? That's 21 fights later, on your 22nd fight, getting a title shot. Amazing. See, that's the thing is I admire people like you, Don, who actually do the hard thing. It's not all these kids and stuff that jump, like do 2 fights as an amateur and then jump pro and then have a shitty pro record and wonder why. It's like the guys that do good, it seems like that fight a lot as an amateur and fight as much as they can, then go pro, seem to do better. I see, you know.
Well, boxing's had that in place for years where these guys fight, and it's like Danasabe said, they have hundreds of fights. Well, in boxing, that's kind of how it goes.
Right.
Most of these guys have 100 fights or more as amies, but it's smart because then when they do turn pro, they're polished. As he said, they've leveled up. They're ready to go. So. I definitely like there's 2 sides to the amateur coin. A lot of people say, oh, well, these promoters are using these amies. They don't have to pay them. Listen, these amies are getting more out of this than the promoters are, 100%. And they can go back and watch it. It doesn't go on their pro. Because you go on SureDog, they don't even show your AMI record. It just is your pro record.
Over. I don't know why these amateurs are not taking fights and padding their records also. It's like, you're an amateur.
Absolutely.
Go lose fights so you don't lose when you're a pro.
You learn a lot more from a loss than you do from a win.
You know, I have the biggest headache because of shit like that. You know, like I've seen I got this kid who's got like 13 years of wrestling, and a couple years of striking. That makes him a higher level amateur than most of them out there. They're just coming off a year or 2 training, then won't take fights. Unless they're debut fighters. I'm like, wait a minute here. Hold on. Wait a minute. You've got this much experience, and then yet you're not going to want to take a fight against a guy who's, let's say, got a draw.
Again, that's somebody who just wants, they're
Facebook fighters.
Yeah, they're Facebook fighters.
Dude, it's like, it's terrible. You know what I mean? It's like I look at all kinds of angles like that as, you know, who they fought, where they're from, what their experience is. Because as a promoter, I want the best fights possible, so I try to match them up accordingly. I'm not matching them up because this fighter wants a fucking easy fight. That ain't the way it works with me.
Right.
If you fight for me, you're going to have a hard fight. I don't care who you are.
And that's got to be the guys coming out of your camp as well, which is why Danasabe's got a title fight tomorrow.
Exactly.
So let me ask you about your opponent. Now, I asked this question a little differently than most interviewers would. And some people say, what do you think of your opponent? I'm going to say this. Take yourself out of the equation. You're not fighting this guy tomorrow. You're a fan that just watched him fight in his last fight. What is your opinion of him as a fighter?
He is a strong fighter for sure. He definitely is more from a wrestling background. He can take punishment, and he has a gas tank, and he can move forward. But from what I've seen, if you just look at it like record to record of the guys that he's fought, most of the guys that he's fought have been more cans, you know.
Okay.
But after looking at the guys that he's fought, knowing them and following them, you know, that some of them were actually tough. They just ended up losing tough fights, so their record doesn't look that great. So he has fought some good guys, and then he's fought some cans. But
what's the hole that you see in? Is it his submissions? Do you think that on the ground?
His hole is his stand up. He does a lot of straightforward.
In the pocket, he's not really moving.
Pocket. I feel like in the beginning, when he first initiates his takedowns, his control is a little weak, but he does end up fixing it after a little bit. I've seen him, you know, he's been swept in a couple of spots where he should have had nice, solid control. But besides that, he's going to be a good opponent, you know.
How do you rank him with the other people that you fought in your pro career?
I don't want to do that, but yeah, right. I don't know. I would say
top 3.
I would say top 5.
There you go. So he ranks him 5th. That's how you get it. Because if he's not in the top 3 and he goes all the way down to 5, he's got to be 5th. So you fought 8 guys, and you rank him 5th. So not very high, but that's okay. Okay. So who is the toughest guy you fought?
James Terry.
Absolutely. It's a monster. Is that a fight you want to get back?
I would. That would be great. Yeah. If he. Yeah.
We talked about this on the show last week when we were talking to Crop Scott, and I've always felt like a guy who wins an MMA fight should never go back and fight a guy that he beat, and that's from his point of view. But obviously, from your point of view, you'd love to run it back. Does he seem like a guy that might give you another shot at that? Or
if I get my record up and I start working my way through the ranks,
you get that belt, he might want to come get it.
He wants to. He's a guy that wants to fight on main cards of big shows because that's what he deserves. He's been around the block. He's been doing this forever.
Right.
I was a child looking at MMA for the first time before I even trained for the first time. He was in there, in the big show, already fighting on main cards, you know, making money. So unless it's a main card fight, he's probably not going to win it. So I'm not even going to talk about it.
Absolutely. There you go. So if you win this title tomorrow, which is a huge step for you. Obviously, you've already fought Bellator. You've won on Bellator. So you've been on that stage, at least on some level. It was undercard, but, you know, that's how you start out. You've only had, as we said, 8 fights. So give me your goals for the next year of mixed martial arts.
I just want to keep fighting, whether it's on regional shows or the big show, and winning fights so I can build up a record. And then once my record is a win streak is built up, then, you know, get a fight that's like on a main card and like something that, you know, is going to make some money and get me noticed, you know.
Did you feel like you got paid properly for Bellator?
No.
I'm not gonna say how much it was. I know how much it was, but I absolutely do not either.
No.
And I think that's kind of a running trend.
And it's not cool. It really isn't, especially to be calling yourself the biggest, you know.
They're owned by Viacom.
Yeah, well, not anymore, but
they were. But there's money there. You know what I mean?
There's a lot of money there. So yeah, I mean, I would like to get to the other one, but, you know, we'll see.
The other one, UFC.
Yeah, I'm trying to get there, but
but even there, and I'll be honest with you, I have a lot of friends that fight UFC, and even there's not a ton of money.
It would be cool to fight for like one, you know, and be able to travel, and they pay well. Also, they understand how to take care of fighters. You know, it's a different mentality than.
You're probably the first person I've interviewed in like 3 years that ever said they want to go to one. Yeah. That's actually pretty cool. That means that you've studied, you understand who's doing what for the fighters, and that's kind of cool.
They actually care about the fighters. You know, it's different mentality over there for sure.
Absolutely. Who are some of the guys that you looked up to? You said you were a kid watching, you saw James Terry, but who are some of the guys you looked up to?
Eve Edwards.
I haven't heard that name in a long time. Hell yeah.
What was his name? The guy that I can't believe I don't remember his name. He fought Jose Aldo. He had that huge hematoma on his head.
You're talking about
Hallman?
No. That was a great fight too. He kicked him in the head, and he had this.
And he just kept.
Oh my gosh, what was his? I remember that fight
Canadian.
though.
He's Canadian.
Yeah. I remember that fight. I'm gonna have to. I know his name too.
Yeah, Mark Hominick.
There it is,
Mark
Hominick.
Hominick is amazing. I used to watch his fights all the time. But now I really don't follow fighters like I used to. It's more of like I watch fights and then pick and choose from the technique that they use. And, you know, because not every fighter shows up every time they fight because it's years and years of preparation for only 15 minutes, so you never know who's going to show up.
Let me ask you a question. Okay, so as a fighter now, with all the fights that go on in California, all the fights that go on the West Coast, do you ever find yourself looking at the other lightweights, the other guys in your weight classes that are fighting? Do you ever study them or say, hey, I wonder who's doing what? Let me see who's top 10 right now.
I don't really study them as in like, oh, if I'm going to fight them. I do like to study the techniques that are popular right now because I feel there's always a trend in techniques, especially with the way social media is now. Everything is out there. So you see fighters doing more things that are just out there all the time. All of a sudden they see a first spinning, you know, back kick, and all of a sudden all of the top fighters are doing spinning back kicks.
Right.
You see somebody do a push kick to the knee, and everybody's doing that kick, you know, something random. So,
the front kick that knocked out poor Vitor Belfort.
Yeah, so it's like that's really what I look for. I look for what's trending and what to watch out for.
Nice.
Because a fighter that I'm going to go up against might, you know, be studying that and do that, you know.
How old are you?
28.
So 28 years old. Did you know who Jerry Bolander was when you first got to Napa Valley MMA? Tell the truth.
I did not, but I found out very quickly once, you know, they all told me about him, and then I looked him up, and UFC history, you know. Absolutely
legend. He's actually a judge in my first fight. It was pretty
really?
cool. And for me, it was huge. He was the biggest guy on that card was the judge, and it was Jerry Bolander.
He's
it was
so
pretty cool.
like nonchalant about everything. He really doesn't like to go back to that time and talk about it, but he will, you know.
He's a cop now, right?
Yeah.
Deputy sheriff now.
Yeah. And you got Petey Williams. Does Petey Williams come out there as well?
He taught me how to throw kicks.
Yeah.
My kicks are still shit, but I mean, they're way better now because I've been working with Chris so much. He's been like really just working.
Chris is here. What's Chris's last name again? There you go. So that's and this is your striking coach?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And he's been picking my stand up apart, and my kicks are so much better now, and I really do owe it all to him. So thank you, Chris, for everything you've done for me.
There you go.
I'll hopefully be showing it off tomorrow. We'll see what I.
Are you one of those fighters that when you learn some new techniques, that's what you want to use in your next fight? Do you kind of forget everything else and go, no, I want to go kick this fucking guy in the head?
It depends on the fight. Sometimes I do, but most of the time I just want to just throw whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever's closest.
So other than the no-name from Combat Americas that we can't remember his name, is there anybody that I don't want you to look past, obviously, your opponent tomorrow night. It's a title fight, biggest fight of your career. But is there anybody in your weight class right now that you want to get it on with?
No, I really don't. It's not. I feel like it's not at that level yet. You know, until you're in a big organization with the big names and you're trying to reach to where they're at, then there's nobody. You know, you just do what you work with, what's in front of you, and then you go from there. You know.
I know you're not going to tell me this, but what's your game plan for tomorrow night?
Game plan for tomorrow night is that literally is always my game plan is to fight and listen to my corners. That's
how many rounds is this fight going to go?
First round.
There you go. So there you have it right there. Danasabe Mohammed says he's going to win in the first round tomorrow night. Lightweight title, Dragon House 31. Are there any other fights on that card for guys from your team or buddies of yours that are fighting?
Yeah, I mean, Joaquin Lopez is fighting for the 170 title.
Great fighter.
You got Adam Walmsley fighting in the beginning. Gabriel Pacheco's fighting also.
Who you said you trained with a little earlier in your career.
All those guys are monsters from Dave Terrell. And they're all really nice guys too. So I'm excited to see them fight.
That's a great camp over there. So tell us about. So you've only fought for Dragon House and you've only fought for Bellator. Mm-hmm. What was the difference fighting for Bellator? Forget the money, but just the experience of going there and showing up as opposed to fighting for Dragon House.
I liked how on time everything was. Everything was very professional. It was the way, like what you expect or what you expected as a pro going into it, you know? Oh, I found out the guy's name. Evan Solorio.
Oh, yes, I know Evan Solorio. I know Evan Solorio.
I'm still calling you weak. I'm in a different
I actually know Evan
now,
Solorio.
I'll still get in there and whoop you. Tell you what.
I'm gonna put this on my Facebook because he's on my Facebook.
I'm still mad that he blocked me. I'm still mad about that.
So you said you liked the difference when you showed up as a pro at Bellator, and they treated you a little differently, or?
Yeah. It's just everything was just very professional and on time. The weigh-ins were on time. You walk in, you get on the scale, you leave and you hydrate. You don't sit there for hours dying, you know. Come fight time, fights start on time no matter what.
Nice.
Whether
Because they're
you're ready
TV,
or
you
not,
got to.
You get your butt out there. You put your cup on while you're walking out or whatever you got to do, you know. Every single person gets tested. It's mandatory. You don't have to worry about fighting somebody jacked up on steroids or meth. It's not like like they do with the
my man threw meth in
regional
there.
shows. You know what I'm saying?
I'm not fighting no crackheads.
But you know what I'm saying? But they're like on these regional shows, you get the random testing, so you don't know, and you don't know who you're fighting and what they're doing. So it can be dangerous, you know.
Absolutely. So obviously, and for those of you at home that don't understand, the way that Bellator works is they do have contracted fighters that are Bellator fighters. But when they come into local areas, they grab guys like Danasabe and other guys that are big ticket sellers and big fighters in the area, and they bring them on as Bellator fighters for the night. So that's kind of what happened with you, but you seem grounded enough.
I got a 2-year contract from them.
There you go.
I had a surgery.
And that's what I was getting at, yeah.
And then, so I've been out for whatever.
You had a knee surgery, right?
And then once I got back on, they extended my contract. So it's pretty much been a 3-year contract.
Right.
But since they don't have the shows in this region that often, which they only normally pull fighters that are like preliminary bout fighters.
Right.
They're not main card just for
They're not trying to fly them in.
Even the main card fighters, they wait until they're in
Right.
the area to fight them. So that's why they're letting me fight for Dragon House back and forth.
Nice. So that's what I was kind of getting at. So they started out that way, and then they gave you a contract. That was my point, was like they saw something in you, and then unfortunately you had the knee injury.
Yeah.
You ballooned up to like 215 pounds. Yeah.
I was a chunky butt.
How did you feel walking around at 215?
I felt strong.
Yeah.
I felt really strong.
Look like the
I
Michelin
felt so
Man.
strong. Man, when I'd wrestle, I would just lay there, just grab whatever. Just give me that.
See, and in your head, you still feel like you're the same size, so you want to
But
grapple
you're
the
not.
same guys that you were grappling when you were 155.
You
Yeah.
can't do it. No, it's not happening. Yeah.
So what'd you do to lose the weight? Just back to training?
I did intermittent fasting with the keto, which, hey, any fighter out there, don't do the keto diet as a fighter because you will not have energy for shit.
No carbs.
No carbs, no carbs. And I did it for a long time. I did it for like 3 months or whatever till I got all the weight off and then transitioned back. But it works. It's real.
What do you walk around at? 170?
I walk around like 180, closer to 185.
Damn, big dog. And then you drop down to 155?
Yeah.
That's a big drop,
But I mean,
man.
I just my diet tightens up like really. I just get super strict with everything, and then the weight falls off, and then before I know it, I'm floating around.
Did you wrestle in school?
Didn't. I boxed.
So but even in boxing, so you learned how to cut weight at an early
Yeah, I
age.
learned how
then
to cut weight. So
yeah,
you learn how to be consistent, and you learn what works for your body.
because there's cutting weight, and then there's cutting weight the right way.
Yeah, exactly.
And you see these guys that cut weight, and then they just get exhausted, or they look like
dying,
shit.
puking,
Yeah. So that's good that you can walk around at 185 and drop to 155. That's scary though. What are you going to walk into the cage tomorrow night at?
175, 180.
What do you think he's going to walk into?
The same. He looked like a big guy, and he is a wrestler, and he looked sunken. Like he looked like he cut a lot of weight, so he knows.
So as a wrestler, he's probably, especially if he gets in trouble on the feet, obviously we know a wrestler's common response is to shoot for that double leg or that single leg. Are you going to let him do that so that you can tap him out on the ground?
No, I'm going to hit him and try to daze him, and then if I daze him and he falls, then I will choke the shit out of him. That's what I do in all my fights. So if he's seen any of my fights, he knows, like, I'm going to hit you hard and I'm going to choke you out.
So it's kind of a dangerous matchup because you got Don, who's won how many fights on a submission, and yet he's got hands. So if you take him down, then you might have the opportunity.
You got to worry about the submission.
Yeah, I mean, you got every angle covered. You got kicks, you got hands, and you got submissions. I mean, that makes for a really, really dangerous fight.
Yeah. Has there been an opponent in your career that you said that they offered you and you said, no, I don't want to fight him?
Nobody.
At any point?
At any point, I feel like there was at one point where I was I feel like I need more because I only had like 2 fights at the time. And the guy had like 20.
Yeah.
He'll probably comment on this or whatever when he sees it. I can't remember though. But I wanted to wait. I did want to fight, but I just wanted to wait because it didn't make sense, and I was undefeated at the time.
Yeah.
Then there was a couple of guys that were just way too big. I remember, like David Douglas wasn't.
Oh, David Douglas. Yeah, I remember that.
He's a big ass guy.
But I was hurt. I got hurt. I had like my meniscus or whatever because I had a meniscus surgery, then the osteochondral allograft and.
Wait, say that shit again?
Osteochondral allograft.
You made that shit up right now.
No, that shit is real. It's a bone meniscus transplant where they take like a plug out of your leg with a cadaver, and it's a long hill. It's like a year hill. I was crutch or like wheelchair, crutches, the whole nine. Yeah.
Stronger now than it was, though, right?
Strong.
Yeah. Look at it, the karate, the Bruce Lee.
Yeah, right.
So I know that Bay Area Combat has talked about trying to get a pro license, or they can do that, obviously, get a pro license and promote pro shows. Would you like to fight on Bay Area Combat?
Yes, I would. They have excellent shows. They throw excellent shows. I would love to fight for them.
I've already been thinking about a matchup because I've got a guy in mind that I would like to
I'm
see.
not fighting him, dude. It's not happening. Now, who is it? Who is it?
Well, I got this idea. JJ Okonovich would be a really good fight.
He would be a good fight.
That would be.
Do you want to fight him?
I do. I've been talking crap to him for a long time on this.
Does he talk back?
Yeah, he was, and I just let it go because it's time. Because I just let it go on for way too long.
But see, what I like about you though is like you talk the shit, but you know it's talking shit, right?
Yeah, for
is
sure.
there anybody though that you want to catch in the parking lot and just bitch slap?
No.
Nobody at that point right now.
I think they're all great. I really think JJ Okonovich is a great guy, also.
Yeah,
but it's just I'm.
Except he sounds like a football player, not a fighter.
I'm just trying to make a fight. I'm trying to fight, and I want to fight good guys,
Well, it's like that. See that matchup there. It's like it really is a really good matchup. Both of these guys are really, really good at what they do.
Slap in the parking lot.
It's like
sometimes it gets to that point.
I'm not that guy anymore.
Anymore. I like that. Anymore.
Because then I'm gonna, of course I'm gonna have Adam Walmsley on the pro card. Because I love Adam. He's one of my guys.
All the damn
same with Joe. Joe's my homie. And then when all these my other title fight holders and stuff finally go pro. They're all gonna go fight on my show.
Yeah.
Because they're all.
I can't wait to see. Is your 50 Bueno go pro?
Dude,
excited for that.
That kid's fun.
He's fighting tomorrow too.
Yeah.
But he's fighting in LA.
Yeah.
SoCal. Yeah. Okay, you just said you're not that guy anymore. We talked to Joe Cropscott last week when he was on, and he was telling us how he got sent off to fucking boarding school because he was such a troublemaker and hitting people with skateboards and all this stuff. I know. I was shocked.
He was so nice. Like he was like just.
So was Danasabe? Were you a troublemaker?
Kinda, yeah. I was a troublemaker. I was like a punk rock.
You keep looking at your striking coach like, do I say something?
He's known me since he got me started. He got me started in MMA. Actually, I was
okay.
I was like in between homes at the time, and I just got adopted by a new family, and I was like punk rocker, like a lip piercing, and getting fights every day.
I see that with the hair. You kept the hair just to kind of you don't want to fully let go of that punk rock phase. Yeah,
exactly.
Gotta have something.
Yeah, he saw me just doing stupid shit, running around, just being a dirty old or young kid, and got me into MMA. He used to drive me.
So he pretty much saved your life.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Seriously.
That's good stuff. So you're adopted.
Yeah, I got adopted when I was 16.
Nice. How's that? You still?
It was good.
Yeah.
I still talk to him. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you live in group homes?
No, I didn't live in group homes.
No, just kind of
straight from home to home. It was like juvenile hall for a while, and then to another home.
Gotcha. So you had that little background too, man. That's why you're such a good fighter. I'm telling you, people don't believe me, but when you come from that type of background, you just got that hunger that nobody else has.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You just know how to fight, and you want to fight. I had gotten a lot of fights as a kid. I just like to get in fights.
The
whether
key
I got my
is
ass whooped or not.
The key is to find a guy like Chris who can take that anger and that want to fight and turn it into something polished and turn you into a sportsman that can take all that and make it into something that's effective and is successful for you rather than putting you back in juvenile hall or county.
True. That's very true. Yeah, no, I definitely owe a lot to both of my coaches. Both of them have been here for me so much. Like Steve, he will make sure that I am on time to every sparring session, go with me.
But you got to be careful because he'll still get you in trouble. Steve don't know how to act.
Oh, hell yeah. That's why I don't drink.
I won't hang out with him. He'll be doing something crazy.
How long are your camps, Danasabe? For once you find out you're going to fight, from the time, okay, I'm going to fight this guy, how long is your camp?
These guys were getting on my ass around 6 weeks.
Okay.
If it's that long, yeah, that's normally when they're having me buckle down.
Are you hard to rein in until you get reined in?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
But no, I like to train no matter what all the time. I love to train. I just love to be in the gym. It pisses my girlfriend off. She's, you know what I'm saying? But I love to be in
until you get signed by the UFC and get a bunch of money, and then she's gonna be like, "Baby, why aren't you training? You need to go to the gym."
Let me drive.
What's wrong with you? Yeah. I got the car outside waiting for you.
That's hilarious.
All right, man. So first of all, I want to say thank you for stopping by and talking with us. It's been awesome. Learned a little bit about you that we didn't know, obviously. Tomorrow night, guys, make sure if you're in the area, and you are if you're watching Bay Area Combat, Dragon House, San Francisco. It's Dragon House 31. Tons of great fights, including Danasabe for the lightweight championship. And number 21 in California. I think you're number 39 on the West Coast. It's pretty goddamn high ranking. There's a lot of fighters.
I was 15 like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, you went down because I won a couple more fights.
Somebody got moved up. Yeah. It's all right. After this, I'll get moved back. It's fine.
Yeah, guys. So you guys definitely want to come out and check him out. He's fresh off his win November of 2018 over Jamario Mulder. And tomorrow night's the title fight, man. Good luck. We really look forward to seeing this fight and hopefully having you fight for Bay Area Combat when things go pro. Steve, do you have anything you wanted to say to Danasabe?
Shit, I'll be right there beside you all the way out to the cage tomorrow. Yep.
As usual.
Yep.
Ride or die.
What are you walking out to? Give us a hint. What's the song?
It's by a local rap group. My friends from high school that sponsor me. They're the SWAT Boys. So if you have time to check them out, check out the SWAT Boys.
Instagram or
Instagram, the SWAT Boys. Facebook, the SWAT Boys. So it'll be one of their songs. So I'm excited.
There you go. All right, man. Good luck, and hopefully, well, I already know, man. We'll see when you come back on the show. You bring the belt with you. How about that?
I will bring the belt with me.
So,
all right.
You know, the cool thing about training with such a small camp is like we pretty much got all fighters, pretty much. You know, we have a couple guys that don't fight, but everybody's there for the same. I think that the team support. So I really promote the team atmosphere. It's like it's not it's us. Yeah. When it comes to training, and I really push that on people. You know what I mean? When your teammate falls over, give them a hand up, not a hand out. You know what I mean?
I forgot to talk about all the boxing I did this.
Talk about it. Tell us.
We're not done yet. We ain't on no time limit. You know.
Yeah.
We're just.
I was going to Lightning's gym in Oakland and sparring with Aaron Coley. He's a great pro. And, and a couple other guys there.
I announced a couple of his fights, commentated his fight for OPP when he fought.
I've had a lot of fun
Osric
with
Pratt.
this fight camp and getting ready for it.
Man, Coley's a beast. How'd you do sparring against him?
I did great.
Yeah?
I do great whenever I go sparring.
I'm going to text him and ask him. I don't know, man. I'm going to ask him.
If he says any different.
Who else did you spar with besides Coley? I mean,
the other pros.
by the way, Coley, guys, for those who don't know, from Northern California, he's a champion several weight classes. Yeah. He's a tremendous fighder.
Sorry, there's a couple other guys. I just don't know their names, but they train beside Coley also. They're in all of his pictures with him.
Okay, so
just forget when you do stuff.
What's the difference going to a boxing gym and training with boxers than going to an MMA gym and training with MMA fighters?
Range. There's a lot of things that you could do in boxing, and you'll look excellent and you'll be fine, but you can't do in MMA. I can't be in the pocket the way I am in boxing and then in MMA. There's just a difference in range, and it translates in the punching also. That's why boxers think MMA fighters are so unpolished and not good, but they're not. It's a different range, and there's a lot more variables, so it makes the hands look sloppier.
Different gloves, everything.
And it's just like everything looks nicer and more crisp when you're in tight and you're throwing really short punches. When everything gets long and then you're leaping and looking for stuff, it's different. But I feel like high-level MMA fighters and high-level boxers are still on the same playing ground. They go in and spar with each other.
And people always say, "Oh, I watch boxing and they're so crisp and clean." Yeah, they're not worried about getting kicked in the leg. They're not worried about getting taken down. They're not worried about an elbow coming in. It's a different animal.
They're not at the kick range either, it's like I can be here and throwing punches and blocking and slipping and moving and everything will look clean, but that's not where we're going to be at. We're going to be
everywhere.
Another arm length away, waiting for a kick, a punch, a shot. So,
how's your cardio? Because boxing, did your cardio even get better when you train with the boxers?
I always have boxing cardio. I stay in boxing.
This guy.
I train with Oscar Ortiz in Napa, and his pro's Brandon Trejo. He was on the Junior Olympic team.
Absolutely.
Pro. He's a great pro now, So I'm always in the gym, and we're constantly feeding off each other, working. Every day that I do MMA is I box. I box before I go there. It's my passion, really.
Yeah, boxing is where my heart lies. It always will. Like, obviously, I fought MMA, and I love announcing MMA and talking with you guys. But if someone came to me tomorrow and said you can only announce one or the other for the rest of your life, it would be boxing, just because.
Boxing's easier on the body, too, you know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm not feeling good everywhere, then I'll just go to boxing because I don't have to worry about getting my leg torn off. This guy or somebody else.
All right, guys. Also, Steve Barnett, May 9th, you're fighting Gil Calveo. Was it May 4th? May 4th.
May 4th,
Bear River, right?
Yeah.
Bear River.
Yeah,
Brian.
You were supposed to fight Thunder Valley Gladiator, weren't you?
Yeah, so I was supposed to fight that douchebag. What's his name?
That weenie. Let's not bring that up.
I love that this dude calls people weenies. That's like my new word right now. Danasabe calls people weenies. Yeah, I'm gonna fucking call people weenies from now on. Anytime someone makes me mad, like road rage, I'm gonna roll down my window like, "Fuck you, weenie! You ain't gonna do nothing."
Hey, you just gotta.
I think we talked about that douchebag on a previous podcast.
Let's not go back there. Right?
But you are fighting May 4th.
I'm actually gonna fight a real fighter.
Yeah.
Gil's a definite challenge for me. He's an older guy.
How old are you now?
50.
Yeah.
So what's the camo rule? It's you have to fight guys around your age, right?
I think within 5 years range of your age.
Because I know we had an issue at Bay Area Combat a couple weeks ago when Ron Monahan was getting disrespected by a younger fighter. And Ron was like, I can't even fight him because I'm too damn old. They won't even let me fight him.
Well, it's because last year, those two girls that got matched up, one of them was like 50 years old.
I remember that.
60 or something like that. And she got beat up by like a 20-year-old girl. Ever since then, is stopping it.
So you're fighting you got to fight. I think it has to be like 40 and over, right? Something like that.
It basically is an unsanctioned event up there. So I don't have.
Say that louder, since you're licensed by Camo. maybe we leave that out. We can't. We're live, so we can't edit it out. But
it don't matter for me because it's like I'm not a camo fighter. So
no, but you're a camo matchmaker.
What?
But no, that's good. So what weight are you fighting at?
Well, we're doing a catch weight. I think 175 or 180.
You've been training with this guy, getting ready for this fight?
Dude, I've been training
every day.
I haven't stopped.
Like I said, he's the guy that'll like come wake me up and like pull me out of bed and like drive me down to sparring or something like that.
It's these guys keep me in shape. It's not me keep them in shape. It's like I feel like I'm along for the ride. I might push them. I might get in their face, push them around, punch them a bunch of times, but they keep me in shape for
That's good. Yeah.
It's like they're my motivation. They give me strength and stuff. It's like they don't even know what they do for me.
So is he going to come out and work your corner then?
Absolutely.
Yep.
There you go.
Said, no
and Chris?
Yep. Well, I gotta say, it's out of like the 100 fights or so that we've all been to. It's been Chris and myself pretty much. Don. It's been.
You were supposed to co-host the show at some point. I remember along the way I heard that you were going to.
My kid isn't old enough yet, and we don't have a child care. We take care of them on our own.
Yeah, I feel you.
And
we're going to get, what though? This show's going to blow up and we're going to have a daycare center in here. And there's going to be like licensed daycare providers.
6 months from now, I'll be in here for sure. But until then, it's all you.
So, hey, this is some crazy shit. So Don and I, we've been everywhere together.
We've been everywhere, man.
Everywhere. So, shit. Don had an opportunity. Yeah. So we went to the XFC.
XFC right before they get sold.
Yep.
I won the XFC championship.
Explode?
Supposed to be the poster boy.
Dude, there was like 500 people there trying out for the for the contract to fight on the XFC. It was HD Net Fights back then, right?
Yeah, I remember.
And so we flew out there. Mike Curiello sponsored us to fly out.
Michael Curiello, yeah. And then I ended up winning the contract, and then
they folded.
They folded. They sold it, and then they benched me. I'm under contract for 2 years. I couldn't do anything. Those are the best years. Wait a second.
The company folded, and they still had you under contract and wouldn't let you fight.
Yeah, they sold the contract, and then they kept telling us they were going to fight us, and then they ended up just building up fighters in South America.
That's a lawsuit, bro.
Yeah, I know.
You get paid.
I lost 2 years. 2 years of fights.
How old are you now?
28.
When was that?
That was 4 or 5 years. 5 years ago.
That's like the peak too.
Yeah,
like
it was the peak. I was in great condition, no injuries. I was ready to go, and lost out on that.
Yeah. Fucking weenies.
So after the competition stuff, the next day, Don and I had to get back on the plane. And I said, he's like stuck on the plane like this because the workouts were so intense.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, because they made you do as many reps as you could for a certain amount of time. And most of the guys just were weenies and gave up,
Yeah.
And I kept going the whole time until I damn near tore my biceps.
Yeah. It was some crazy shit. And then by the end of the evening, they weeded out like 490-something people. Shit you not. And this place got very, very, very empty. Last one's up was Don.
Yeah, taking him down. It's so funny. I was like taking him down. I didn't even know shit about wrestling. They think I'm gonna hit him. I'll hit him once and then shoot and throw him on their head.
So you missed those 2 years. Let me ask you this: do you feel like that matters anymore, or do you feel like now you're back at your peak?
Anymore,
yeah,
it
at the time.
At the same time, because 2 years of fights, it's a lot of fights.
Yeah.
And once you get past the 10 fight mark, you start making more money. You start getting better calls. It's totally different, you know. And I could have been there now, but it's not.
Could have been fighting for a title on Bellator.
Something
That's
like
a lawsuit. We need to sue somebody. Who can we sue? I'll be your lawyer. I need some money.
Can't be another Sue Happy American, right?
All right, man. So
thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks for coming out. May 4th for Steve Barnett. He's going to fight Gil Calvillo at Bear River. And, of course, you tomorrow night. Dragon House, 155 title on the line. Deborah Farolito. Is there anything that you want to say to Danasabe who came out? No? We can't ever get her on the mic. All right, guys. So this has been Bay Area Combat. My name is Jim Cooley. We will see you guys, I don't know, next week, the week after, whenever we decide to come back. Awesome. Don't miss this fight tomorrow night, guys. Don't miss it. If you do, you're a weenie.
Oh, thank you.